Good morning. It's my pleasure to call this meeting of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to order. It's 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday, January 11, 2023. Happy New Year, everyone. With us today are Commissioners Emily Lindley and Bobby Janeka, as well as our General Counsel, Mary Smith, and I'm John Neerman. For those who are joining us virtually, please keep your microphones muted when you're not speaking. For those who are making presentations, please wait to begin your presentation until our General Counsel or I have asked you to begin speaking. On items where argument or discussion is allowed, we will inform speakers of their time limits. Registration is now closed, but if you'd like to address the Commission on a particular item, please email agenda@tceq.texas.gov with your name, your affiliation, and the item that you'd like to speak to, and we'll do our best to accommodate that request. With that, I'd like to thank everyone for being present, and Ms. Smith, I'll ask you to please call the first item.
Item number 1 is the consideration of a petition by Earthland Farms LLC for the creation of Duck Creek Municipal Utility District of Denton County. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument but may ask questions.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Colleagues, as you know, we review requests for contested cases on mud creation under Chapter 55, Subchapter G. So we are looking for affected persons, that is, requesters who have identified a personal justiciable interest. And the word justiciable refers to what is within the Commission's authority on a particular item. And for mud creation, what is justiciable means whether the mud is feasible, whether it is practicable, and whether it would benefit the land. And that will include questions about the availability of comparable services, the economic feasibility of the proposed district, and the effect to the land with respect to just certain factors, 7 factors that are specified at Texas Water Code Section 54.021B3. And in analyzing the effect to land, the Commission considers both the proposed district as well as nearby properties. So we cannot consider factors outside of this framework. For example, we can't consider noise or traffic or property values, even though these may be very legitimate concerns. So on this item, we have 9 requests, and I'll begin with Stacy and Brian Rushing. Their property is near the proposed district, and their request raises personal concerns about drainage, water quality, and groundwater levels, all 3 of which are among the 7 statutory factors, so I would grant their request. I would also grant the Wilsons' request. Their property is also near the proposed district, and their request states, our concerns are as follows. Where will the runoff be? Our property is connected to Duck Creek. Will Duck Creek be affected by this runoff? So I think this adequately raises concerns about runoff and drainage. The request from the Sips, the Sheltons, and Marion Odom is a closer call in my mind. Their request states that their cattle drink from the creek. So you could imagine that they have a personal concern about water quality, but the request really doesn't say that. And the Commission could draw different inferences. So I don't think a water quality issue is adequately raised. That request also states that all of the properties are within some kind of floodplain, and it asks what will be done to ensure there is no flooding. And I view this as a sufficient expression of a personal concern. They're asking about flooding because they're concerned about flooding. I think it's hard to draw a different inference from that. So given that this is a pro se request, I think the issue, and I'll be interested to gather your thoughts as well, but I think the issue as to runoff, drainage, flooding, I think it is adequately raised on this request. However, while the Sips and Marion Odom live adjacent to the proposed mud, I believe that the Sheltons' property is too far for them to be affected in a way different from the general public. So I would grant the requests of the Sips and of Marion Odom, and I would deny the Sheltons' request. The Cody's request is another close call. Their request cites personal concerns that are not justiciable. So for example, they say our way of living would be changed, our roads can't take the traffic, and our roads will be ruined. And then the request sort of changes its language, and it switches from sort of the personal possessive our to stating many landowners could be affected by contamination. So on the one hand, they cite personal concerns that are not justiciable, and then they cite a justiciable concern, but they don't pose it in a way that is personal. And so the way they've articulated it, I'm left to wonder whether the Codys are among the many landowners or not among the many landowners. So this is, again, a close call, but I'm inclined to deny that request. And the remaining requesters fail to identify a justiciable interest in my mind. And so, again, concerns about odor, traffic, quality of life, property values are beyond the scope of the Commission's review on MUD petitions. So I would deny the request by the Suttons, the McDaniels, and Ms. Massey. So that's how I landed on that. And again, some of these are really right on the edge, so I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. Commissioner Lindley.
So just to recap, you're recommending granting a hearing to the Rushings, the Wilsons, the Sips, and Marion Odom?
Yes.
That's who you have on your yes list?
Yes.
I agree with the Rushings and the Wilsons, granting a hearing for them, those two couples. The Sips and Miss Odom, excuse me, I didn't quite fall on the line of yes. I do think it is a close call. Their comments, and I believe you quoted this, said that their cattle drink from the streams, and I don't, for me, that doesn't quite raise the water quality issues I'm looking for in order to grant a hearing. They also, the Sips and Miss Odom, they don't live in the district, and so, flooding there, I think that's a questionable of whether that's a personal interest or not. So I came down on yeses for the Rushings and the Wilsons, but those were the only four individuals, I guess I should say, that I was comfortable granting a hearing to.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Janeka.
I appreciate hearing the nuance on that position, and I think that was initially my position as well, coming to the agenda today. But I take your point, Chairman, and was just trying to pull up the direct language of that request that you quoted from, where there is a concern about flooding in the area, where being within the district, certainly that's a clear distinction, but flooding affects properties in a watershed potentially. Given that there's no requirement on us to specify issues, I believe, for this matter, it doesn't make as significant of an issue whether other parties are admitted or not. I'm inclined to go with you in that interpretation on flooding. I don't think it's an impolitic one. And
All right, I'll take that. Yeah. Thank you.
Can I ask our general counsel a quick question before you
Of course.
keep going on the issue? Just saying. Thanks. Thanks. Sorry about that.
Yep, we're good? All right. Well, why don't I go ahead and make the motion then? And I thought we'd include an ADR referral because we don't have a large number of parties. Okay. Colleagues, I move that we grant the hearing requests of Stacy and Brian Rushing, Sean and Colleen Wilson, Brian and Christina Sipp, and Marion Odom, that we deny the remaining hearing requests, that we refer the petition to SOA for a contested case hearing, and that we refer the matter to the Commission's Alternative Dispute Resolution Program to run concurrently with SOA's scheduling process.
I second the motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Nay. I'll be opposed.
Thank you. Two for, one against. The motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item.
Item number 2 is the consideration of the adoption of updates to the memorandum of agreement between the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality and the General Land Office. The Executive Director's staff is here to present this item.
Good morning, Ms. Humphries.
Good morning, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. I'm Kathy Humphries with the Environmental Law Division. The Executive Director requests Commission approval of the updated Memorandum of Agreement between the TCEQ and the GLO. The current MOA was adopted in 1996. The updates reflect the current names of successor agencies by updating the name of the Texas Natural Resource Conservation Commission to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. Additionally, the Coastal Conservation Council was abolished and its responsibilities were transferred to the GLO. The MOA will reflect this change. The amendments to the MOA implement the agreement between TCEQ and the GLO for TCEQ to seek GLO review and certification of TCEQ rules and rule amendments that are subject to the Coastal Management Program in accordance with the procedures adopted by the GLO. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. I have none. Colleagues, any questions?
No questions.
Ms. Smith, has anyone signed in to speak?
No one has signed in.
Thank you. What says OPIC?
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Executive Director. My name is Eli Martinez, and I'm with the Office of Public Interest Counsel for the record. We've reviewed this item, and we're appreciative of the fact that the TCQ and GLO intend to work together on rule certification subject to the Coastal Management Plan, and that the updated MOA contains the correct names of the successor agencies in that partnership. We support adoption.
Thank you. Colleagues, nothing particularly controversial here as far as I can see it, so pending your thoughts, I'm
I would
ready to
agree, and
move
I've got a
forward.
motion. Looks like
Yeah.
we're ready. I move that we adopt the updates to the Memorandum of Agreement between the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality and the Texas General Land Office as recommended by the Executive Director.
I second that motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next items.
That takes us to our enforcement docket, which are items 3 through 20, and the Executive Director's staff are here to present these items.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. For the record, my name is Melissa Cordell of the Enforcement Division, and with me today are Megan Hamilton, also of the Enforcement Division, and Gitanjali Yadav of the Litigation Division, representing the Executive Director. Pending before you are items 3 through 20. The total assessed administrative penalties are $362,158, with $21,271 deferred, $17,760 applied towards supplemental environmental projects, and $323,127 to the general revenue. We respectfully request approval of these items and are available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Cordell. I have none. Colleagues, any questions?
No questions.
Ms. Smith, has anybody signed in to speak?
We have somebody signed in on 20 who's available for questions, but no one has asked to address the commission.
Thank you. Mr. Arthur.
Good morning. OPIC supports adoption of these enforcement orders as presented by ED staff.
Thank you. Colleagues, I do too. I think I'm ready for a motion.
Yeah.
I move that we adopt items 3 through 20 as recommended today by the Executive Director.
I second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 The motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item.
Item number 21 is the consideration of the publication of and hearing on proposed amendments to 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 113, which is standards of performance for hazardous air pollutants and for designated facilities and pollutants, and corresponding revisions to the Clean Air Act, Section 111D State Plan. The Executive Director's staff is here to present this item.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. On behalf of the Executive Director, I'm Michael Wilhoit with the Air Permits Division. With me is Terry Salem of the Environmental Law Division. The proposed rulemaking would revise Chapter 113, Standards of Performance for Hazardous Air Pollutants and for Designated Facilities and Pollutants, to implement changes in federal emission guidelines for municipal solid waste landfills. Corresponding revisions to the Texas Section 111D State Plan are proposed concurrently with the revisions to Chapter 113 and are included under this docket. If adopted, the revisions to Chapter 113 will be submitted to the United States Environmental Protection Agency as part of a revision to the Texas Section 111D State Plan. A public hearing will be offered on the proposal on February the 23rd, 2023. Staff respectfully recommends approval for the publication of and hearing on the proposed revisions to Chapter 113 and the Texas Section 111D State Plan. Staff also respectfully requests permission to make non-substantive revisions if necessary to comply with Texas Register requirements. Thank you. We are available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wilhoit. I have none. Any questions, colleagues?
No, it just always weirds me, not always, the first time to see Michael and Terry. I know we're talking about 111D, but we're also talking about waste, and it's weird to have them up here talking about a municipal landfill. It's throwing me a curveball. I don't have any questions.
That is such a good comment to amplify the point that that was a lot of numbers. I got some 111s and 113s thrown at us. So can I restate it in a little more plain English? You confirm or correct me. There's a bit of back and forth with the federal government and the states on when and how these standards would be imposed. Currently, the EPA standards are in place for certain facilities in Texas, and this rulemaking will get us in line with EPA, and they will then hand over and we'll be responsible for those requirements and standards going forward through our oversight of the existing facilities. I'm trying to explain to the Texans watching from home, since we're a little more exciting than the legislative session right now. So is that basically the change?
Yeah, I think you've summarized it very well. Basically, this proposal, if we adopt the changes to the rule and if EPA approves our revision to the state plan, then essentially the state plan will replace the federal plan that's currently in effect for Texas.
And certain requirements for air emissions around landfills, which is a waste. This is not a waste thing, but just to help Texans understand what regulatory space we're recarving. Thank you very much. I'm all clear. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Smith, has anybody signed in to speak on this item?
No.
Okay. And good morning. What say OPIC?
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Executive Directors, Attorneys, and Staff. I'm Jennifer Jameson on behalf of OPIC for the record. OPIC has reviewed this rulemaking, and OPIC agrees that the revision to the Texas State Plan and corresponding Chapter 113 Municipal Solid Waste Landfills rules is needed to conform with EPA's 2016 emission guidelines. Accordingly, OPIC supports publication of this rulemaking as proposed by the Executive Director. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, I agree. I think we're ready to put this out for comment.
I've got a motion. I would move that we approve the publication of and hearing on the proposed amendments to 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 113, and corresponding revisions to the Federal Clean Act, Section 111D State Plan for Municipal Solid Waste Landfills as recommended by the Executive Director.
With one clarification, I second the motion.
Yes.
You said Federal Clean,
Air Act, Section 111D.
I second
That's
that.
what I meant to say.
I second the motion as made or amended.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item.
Item 22 is the consideration of the publication and hearing on proposed amended Section 5.3 and new Section 5.15 of 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 5, regarding advisory committees and groups. The Executive Director's staff is here to present this item.
Good morning.
Good morning. On behalf of the Executive Director, I'm Don Redmond with the Environmental Law Division. The Executive Director requests your approval to propose new and amended rules in 30 TAC Chapter 5. The proposed rulemaking would implement a Sunset Commission staff recommendation to renew and establish dates of abolishment for certain agency advisory committees by rule. Thank you. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Redmond. I have none. Any questions, colleagues?
No questions?
Thanks. Just to repeat that exercise, we're implementing a recommendation from the Sunset Advisory Review process live, and they've found that the way we reaffirm and extend our advisory committees could and should be done by rulemaking, and so this will get us up to the level that they suggest we meet in order to meet our statutory requirements. But we're doing so by setting a very specific date for a list of advisory committees, and we'll change that list as new committees may be required or closed, ended.
That's correct.
Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, is anybody signed in to speak?
No one signed in.
All right, let's hear from OPIC.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Executive Director's Attorney. I'm Pranjal Mehta on behalf of OPIC. Our office has reviewed this proposed rulemaking. OPIC understands that this rulemaking also implements the requirements of Texas Government Code, Chapter 2110, for establishing the date on which an advisory committee is abolished. OPIC recognizes that a need still exists for these advisory committees, and the need would continue for the projected 10 years. OPIC agrees that the public would benefit from the advice and input from the committee's business, environmental and technical expertise, and experience with respect to matters in the Commission's jurisdiction. OPIC will attend the February 27th public hearing for this rule proposal and monitor any future comments or meetings in the process as it unfolds. At this time, OPIC supports publication. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mehta. Colleagues, I agree. I think I'm ready to move forward.
Same here.
I will move that we approve the publication of and hearing on proposed amended Section 5.3 and new Section 5.15 of 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 5, Advisory Committees and Groups, as recommended by the Executive Director.
A second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Redmond. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item.
Item number 23 is our public comment session. The commission will receive comments from the public on matters within the jurisdiction of the TCEQ in accordance with Texas Water Code Section 5.112. Just a reminder that the commission may not hear comment on pending permitting matters or other contested cases such as pending enforcement matters, which are subject to the ex parte prohibition found in Texas Government Code Section 2001.061. In the interest of time, speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each, with a total time for public comment limited to 1 hour. And please note that the commission's discussion of subjects for which public notice has not been given are limited to statements of specific factual response and the recitation of existing policy. And I believe first and only, we have Mr. Stan Mitchell.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Mr. Mitchell, it's good to see you. Good morning. I think you're familiar with the drill.
I've had a lot of practice, as we've said. Chairman Ehrman, Ms. Lindley and Jenica and General Counsel Smith. I'm Bear County resident Stan Mitchell. Chairman Neerman asked Jim Risk to respond to my December 14th presentation, including more detailed comments enclosed. Your regulatory capture bias tried to negate two Dr. Curtis Chubb inputs. First, Dr. Chubb's May 2021 9-page, quote, "The interests of Milam and Burleson County must be first and foremost," unquote, correlates precipitous drops in the Simsboro Carrizo aquifers with the startup of Vista Ridge project pumping. You did not respond despite your Investopedia-defined fiduciary duties enclosed. Second, Milam County landowner Chubb's March 9th, 2022, quote, "petition for inquiry of POS GCD submitted to the TCEQ," unquote, alleges failure of the POS GCD management to enforce substantial compliance with its rules that would protect the area's groundwater. The April 29th, 2022 TCEQ ruling cites the state's failed groundwater availability model, GAM. Despite $300,000 committed to make wholesale improvements in the GAM, the POS GCD projects no resolution. Facts of aquifer dynamics exist only in the past. Any model processes the modeler's assumptions, seldom shared with the public, falsely implying a degree of future certainty. Your TCEQ ruling favored POS GCD estimates over Chubb facts in his May 2021 report. Your regulatory capture bias is evident. Stated simply, POS GCD has approved pumping permits for 103,000 annual acre feet from the Simsboro Aquifer, which recharges at only 12,000 acre feet per year. Regulatory capture clashes with your fiduciary trust, yielding Investopedia's fiduciary negligence enclosed, which generally occurs as passive behavior, a failure to address the action of others. The accelerating decline in the Simsboro Carrizo Aquifer's water quality and quantity is a critical issue demanding your investigation. Someone is lying to you. Follow the money. This, my 5th monthly presentations, summarizes a slide of public critiques of TCEQ into administrative black hole. I have prepared an addendum to this presentation in response to a phone call from TCEQ at 10 a.m. yesterday morning, announcing that TCEQ would not respond to all December 14th presentation issues and would put nothing in writing. The addendum is included with your presentation copy. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Good to see you. And Ms. Smith, I think that takes us to the executive session items.
That's correct. The commission will meet in closed session in Building E, Room 211S at, do you want 5 minutes or do you want to go straight in?
Straight in.
Let's go straight in. 9:58 as permitted by the Open Meetings Act, including Texas Government Code Sections 551.071 and 551.074, to take up and consider matters pursuant to items number 24 through 27 as posted and noticed.
The time is 9:58 a.m. and we are in recess.
The commission met in room 420, or 40, or sorry. The commission met in Building E, room 211S for closed session from 10:02 until 10:45 a.m. on numbers 25 through 27, as posted in notice pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.074. No action was taken, and the time is 10:47.